the sixth time in 7 years under Brett Bielema, the Badgers lose their first Big Ten road game, but they'll be back here this week at Can Brandel and opening divisional play, starting fresh on that side of the ball. Whole new angle here with Illinois coming to town. I'm Adam Mertz with Jim Polzin and Tom Mulhern of the Wisconsin State Journal, and that is the big picture right now, is it not, Mully? These guys have a clean slate in this division. Coming off, overall, I mean, it got to be an encouraging game in some respects at Nebraska.
Yeah, honestly, I view them as a stronger division title contender now than I did going into Nebraska. I guess I just thought the way it's set up with a redshirt freshman quarterback going into that environment and Nebraska bent on payback, it was going to be a difficult game to win. They did enough things going up 20-3. Now, they didn't finish the deal, and I'm not wiping that under the rug by any means. That's a huge issue. But they look better going up 20-3 than we've seen out of this offense so far this season. So I think there are some positive things going forward. I don't think the damage was huge in terms of the conference race. It's still going to come down to the Purdue game, and you're talking about a Purdue team that gave up 41 to Marshall over the weekend, which surprised me a little bit. So I think the bottom line is Wisconsin's going to be saved by a really weak Big Ten conference this year, and I still think they can compete with teams in their division.
Well, you saw the progression, I think, even up to the UW game, and then again last week. I mean, like Mully said, obviously you let a 17-point lead slip away. That's nothing to laugh or joke about or feel good about. But at the same time, did you walk away feeling that these guys are a little more competitive maybe than you thought they were in the first 3 games of the season?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they're getting a little better every week. The one thing we haven't seen yet is a full 4-quarter game. I mean, they need to finish games. They need to play well from start to finish. So there's hope that that'll happen. Just kind of piggybacking on what Molly said, they might be favored the rest of their games until that Ohio State game, and even then, who knows at that point where these teams will be. The Purdue game is probably a toss-up, but you look at their schedule, it's very favorable, and I think there is reason for optimism. I know fans are freaking out about now. I think let's just see how this plays out the next couple of weeks.
I think one of the toughest things to swallow, obviously, was the way that the last offensive series ended. And after the game, Brett Bielema was talking about how, yes, this was kind of their plan to go to Daniel Bryan, but it sounds like more and more that the Joel Stave getting banged up that series beforehand played a bigger role maybe than some preordained plan. And can you walk me through, from your perspective, is that going to happen again? Are you going to see Daniel Bryan in that role again unless there's an injury involved?
I just can't imagine we'll see that again. I said it after the game to Molly. How can you put in a guy that hasn't played since halftime of week 2 in a situation like that? How can that be the plan going in? And we found out later it wasn't. I mean, Stave got kind of banged around, and they basically were forced to play O'Brien. I can't imagine they're going to mess around in that situation and do that again. I just think the other night, that play, Daniel Bryan basically messing up in one of the bigger plays of the game, I think that'll kind of teach them a lesson to say, hey, let's just go with the guy we have, and if we need O'Brien, he's there, but let's not force him into a situation.
From your perspective, Tom Mulhern, I mean, Joel Stave had a really nice first half, took some real licks in the second half. Maybe was thrown off his game a little bit. Do you see him as that guy? I mean, are you seeing him more as that guy that's going to be able to carry the Badgers through this year, or do you see a role yet for a Daniel Bryan?
Well, I'm becoming more convinced with Stave the more I see of him, and I was impressed with the way he hung in there. Now, they got to get those protection issues cleaned up. I mean, that's a huge thing that, you can't be having shots on your quarterback and free runners to the quarterback against, and they are going to see, I keep asking people about this, but you start a redshirt freshman quarterback, defensive coordinators are going to blitz you until you find a way to stop it. So they're only going to see more of that. So to me, that's a big issue right now, and I do think the young wide receivers are starting to emerge a little bit. We saw Chase Hammond make a huge play, given his chance. Jordan Frederick has got really good hands, looking like a decent possession receiver, and then we saw the impact Abradaris made in the first half. So those are all going to help Stave going forward as well.
I mean, stepping back to the big picture then quickly with you guys, I mean, you see these things coming, kind of a growth of younger guys in this program, and Brett's kind of talked probably more than he should have about how young these guys are and really stressing that to us. But I mean, that is a part of this season, isn't it? When you're looking at it, they're going to have to keep getting better, and they're going to have to keep growing if they're going to turn into a team that can do something.
Well, Brett's kind of always talked a little bit about 2013 and how good they should be then, and so you kind of knew this year was going to be kind of a bridge to that. I think there are a lot of high expectations, and rightfully so. They have a Heisman Trophy contender back, a lot of key pieces from last year, but yeah, this is. I don't know how anybody could have, looking back, gone into the season and not expected some sort of bumps along the way. They just have too many young guys, a completely new coaching staff. So in a lot of ways, I think this is expected. It's going to take a little while for this team to find itself, and I still think there's hope for that to happen.
defensive side of the ball, I don't know what you're seeing there in terms of the progression. I mean, these guys played, again, a really good first half and then looked almost lost at times trying to defend Taylor Martinez, especially his feet in the second half. Where do you see them maybe missing a little bit of something on that side of the ball?
Yeah, it has been mystifying to me, and I'm sure it's mystifying to fans to see such prolonged stretches of good defense followed by stretches where they just don't look like they know what they're doing. And to me, it goes back, J.J. Watt was a special player, and I think they're looking for a similar type of impact player up front. They've got two really good linebackers who are playmakers, but they don't have a huge playmaker up front like they had with J.J. Watt and O'Brien Schofield. And now, granted, those are not easy to find, and you do not get those guys every year, so I understand that. But to me, they need a difference maker up front to get after the quarterback. That's how you start forcing turnovers. And they did get a couple turnovers last week, but it was mostly because Nebraska just put the ball on the ground. So that's another aspect that's been lacking of the defense, and I think that comes from generating pressure on the quarterback, and they got to find more of that.
How about you, Jim Polzin? I mean, they've got a couple guys coming back from injury. It sounds like Brennan Kelly will be back in the mix. Mulhern will be back a little bit, giving more depth on the defensive line. And also Shelton Johnson, who originally was thought to be lost for the season with a broken arm, now looks like he'll be back in a couple weeks. Is that going to give them anything to get them over the top, or do you see that still kind of being the same sort of situation?
Well, I don't think it can hurt. I think the more the merrier. The thing with the defensive end rotation is, the more guys you get in there and substituting, you can keep guys fresh. So in the fourth quarter, those guys have some legs. They can go after the quarterback a little more. The other night, it was basically a three-man rotation, and I think those guys maybe wore down. I think we saw that. I think Nebraska clearly controlled the line of scrimmage, really on both sides of the ball in the third and fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. So I think it'll help. I mean, are those guys difference makers? No, but I think more bodies will help this team and kind of keep it more fresh late in games.
Last question for you guys: thumbs up or thumbs down on the jerseys?
Big thumbs down for me, and I know it seems to be, to me, there's a kind of a cutoff. 25 years and younger liked that, and maybe even closer to 21 and younger liked them, and 25 and up hated them. And I hate to sound like an old fogey, but I did not like them at all. I will say this: I liked them a lot better than Nebraska's in person. I thought Nebraska's were hideous. Not a big fan. I hope we never see either one again.
All I want in a jersey is be able to read the number from the press box, which would help.
That's
it was
a ridiculous request.
Especially Nebraska's, but I'll give it a thumbs up just because it's not that big a deal to me.
There you go. Wow. Follow us all week on madison.com and in the Wisconsin State Journal as the Badgers get prepared to meet Illinois here on Saturday.